everybody. Welcome to the True Crime News, and we're here with Michelle Gower as usual. Say hello, Michelle Gower.
Hello, Michelle Gower.
See, I love that little joke when people do. And I'm Morgan Rector as always, and we have a special guest with us this evening. We have Ariel Cooksey. She is host of the Malice True Crime Podcast. And if you go looking for that podcast, wherever you listen to them, for most people it's Apple or Spotify, make sure that you type in Malice, a true crime podcast, because otherwise you get Michael Malice's podcast. He's like a media personality. I don't know if that's his real surname or not, but anyway, so yeah, if you want to listen to her podcast, it's Malice, a true crime podcast. So Ariel, before we get started, tell the listeners about your show.
Sure. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me. You guys are so gracious to let me come on and join. This is really exciting for me because Human Monsters is like in my top 3 true crime podcasts, like, and top 5 overall, probably. Like,
Oh, thanks.
so it's a huge honor for me. So Malice basically was a podcast that I started almost 5 years ago now. I am by training a sociological social psychologist, and my specialty is in deviant behavior and social control. I've always been fascinated with crime. And I got into listening to podcasts in 2019, January 2019. So I was a little late to the game, right? But there are some excellent true crime podcasts. I didn't find yours immediately. There are some excellent true crime podcasts out there, but I couldn't find one at the time. There are more now. I couldn't find one at the time that really addressed like how violent criminals are created. Why do these things happen? And it was frustrating for a while because that's the content that I really wanted. I was like, I love the crime lines. I love hearing this stuff, but I want to I want to like crawl inside the mind of the people who do these things and figure out what was it about their, whatever, neurology, the child development, the socialization, psychology, nutrition. I mean, like there's so much that goes into the creation of who we become as human beings. And so I realized, hey, dummy, you have credentials, you can do this. So I created Malice and just decided, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to dive in and I'm going to figure it out. And my background being in research as it was already, and working with people from, hard situations, trauma, I just felt like, okay, I feel like maybe I can bring something to the table here. So that's really kind of what prompted the whole thing.
You've been doing this longer than me. It sounds like you may have only preceded me by like 6 weeks or something.
Oh, wow.
He started in January 2019.
July.
I think I started either in February or March 2019.
Oh, so, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you started before me. Yeah.
Yeah. I launched Malice July 2nd of 2019. So it was a pretty quick, like, getting into listening to podcasts to, like, podcasting. So.
Yeah, you've done many episodes, and it's a very polished show. She definitely knows what she's doing. It's like FM radio quality.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you. That means a lot.
Okay, so one thing that we often do with stories, not always, but I've been doing it lately, is that they often have a theme where I might get a bunch of stories that are all connected by similar kinds of events. So this week, my stories are linked by the motif of mutilation. So people getting torn apart. So
all right.
Okay, so my first one, this actually got quite a bit of attention on social media and the internet in general. I posted this story in the Human Monsters Facebook group. So this one deals with a man who found a severed leg in California and started eating it. So here goes the
Okay.
All right, footage of a man gnawing at a severed human leg on the side of a busy street in broad daylight shocked the nation this week, drawing speculation that the national drug crisis is to blame. Video taken in Wasco, California, shows 27-year-old Rosendo Tellez picking up the leg, seemingly biting it, and then waving it around on the sidewalk before police arrived. Full arrest details have not been made available, but the internet is ablaze with theories about the potential involvement of drugs currently dominating the illicit drug supply, specifically xylazine and fentanyl. Do either of you know what xylazine is?
I'm not familiar.
It's a new-ish drug. I swear I just did a training on this. Like, oh God. It's a non-opioid sedative.
Okay.
It's on the rise. I mean, fentanyl for many years, almost probably 10 years now, has been like the go-to filler drug that's been leading to overdose and deaths just because of how dangerous, and even in granular quantities it can kill a grown person. But xylazine is the new up and coming. It's a tranquilizer.
Oh.
And it's something that unfortunately the people making the drugs are now combining it with other opioids. So they're mixing non-opioids with the opioids, like fentanyl and other things, and it's just a killer cocktail, essentially.
Oof.
Now, why can't they make drugs like these that have the same effects but that don't kill you? Because that sounds really good.
Well, I mean, they have synthetic versions of drugs, but those aren't safe either. And with everything being street made, I mean, even if you were to say it's the synthetic stuff, that doesn't mean it's not laced.
Right.
You know, earlier this year, there was a drug stop in Ohio where someone had laced marijuana with fentanyl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not good.
Exactly. So, I mean, who the fuck knows? And
Yeah.
I mean, we have Drug Task Force and Metrich and all these other agencies working on that stuff, but it's like, you know, as much as they stop it coming in, whatever they stop, more just keeps filtering in otherwise. And it's just a non-stop uphill battle.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, forensic toxicologist Dr. Bruce Goldberger, who worked with police on the two horrific cases in Florida that involved disturbed people eating others' faces, told DailyMail.com that he understood the instinct to suspect those drugs. But he said meth, crack cocaine, or bath salts, or given that stimulants can bring on a powerful state of psychosis or total severance from reality, that other drugs like fentanyl, which is a sedative, cannot. However, if fentanyl is combined with other drugs, it can enhance the effects of them.
Mm-hmm.
And scrolling down here, yep. So according to Dr. Goldberger, Telez's cannibalistic behavior is not characterized in the medical literature. This is so unusual, so aberrant, that it's not something that could be readily studied. He added, when you hear about these cases, sometimes you think immediately if a drug or drugs were involved.
Mm-hmm.
Stimulants, such as methamphetamine or crack cocaine, for instance, are the most likely class of drugs. Bath salts, a type of stimulant drug that people either snort, smoke, or inject, are now infamous for links to two deranged attacks in which people ate each other's faces off.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Goldberger told DailyMail.com that in a psychotic state, eating another's flesh may be seen as necessary for self-defense or survival if the person is convinced they'll starve otherwise. In this altered state of mind, the neurotransmitter dopamine, responsible for rewarding survival boosting behavior like eating, can exacerbate psychotic delusions. Because of their effects on dopamine levels, stimulants are most likely to cause psychosis, a state in which one becomes separated from reality and is prone to deranged or violent behaviors, potentially escalating to cannibalism. Stimulants also drastically impair the user's judgment, making them more impulsive and uninhibited, and create a state of hyper-aggression that could extend to violence. Rosendo Tellez was arrested for removing human remains from the site of an Amtrak crash earlier that day that had struck and killed one person, as well as for possession of controlled substance paraphernalia, and one felony offense of violating probation, according to arrest records. The grim footage was captured by nearby construction worker Jose Ibarra, who said, "On the video that we have, it shows clearly that he started chewing on the leg and everything." That was a matter of a lot of debate. A lot of people watched the video. I'm pretty sure it's still out there, and a lot of people debated about whether or not he actually was eating it. But most people say it looks like he really was eating on it. Tellez was homeless at the time of his arrest and had at least half a dozen other misdemeanor charges on his record, mostly for drug and alcohol-related offenses. At the same time, Dr. Goldberger said it was also likely that Tellez was not on drugs, but in fact was severely, violently, mentally ill. In the cases I'm familiar with, no drugs have been involved. It was underlying behavior that led to cannibalism that has no association with a drug or drugs. One of those cases involved 31-year-old Rudy Eugene in Miami, who tore off pieces of 65-year-old Ronald Popo's face. Eugene, a diagnosed schizophrenic, was later found to have used marijuana, not bath salts, as was popularly assumed. Then the event made national headlines. Dr. Goldberger said the marijuana in his system was nothing significant or important in terms of influencing his behavior. The other was that of Austin Haroff, a Florida State University student who, at age 19, killed a couple and ate one of their faces. He was found to be incompetent to stand trial by reason of insanity. Dr. Goldberger said there were many tests that were done by the state, the FBI, over the course of a few years, because drugs evolve over time. There could be drugs in someone's blood today that we've never seen before. He stressed that fentanyl and xylazine would not have caused the behavior shown in Mr. Ibarra's viral video. Those drugs don't cause psychosis. While Mr. Tellez's toxicology report has not yet been provided, whatever is in it could end up providing few answers. So, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. You know, my knee jerk on that. I maybe it's just a me thing, but I've known a lot of addicts in my life, and a lot of people who recreationally like party with drugs. And I've not seen that level of things. So I know that they're mind altering substances. Obviously,
Right.
They can have an impact, but my knee jerk is never like, oh, it's drugs. Like,
Right. Well, and the thing with stimulants is a common side effect of stimulant use is decreased appetite. You know, and usually the hallucinations affiliated with like bath salts and stuff like that is not necessarily violent towards the user. It could just be, oh, I hear someone in the house, there's someone in the attic, or someone's going to come at the door, I need to hide. It's not, I mean, it does trigger fight or flight, and it is completely exacerbated because of the drug use, but it's not like I'm going to go full-blown chimpanzee and take this person's face.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's my reaction too. Yeah, you make a really good point though about the actual like consumption part of things.
Right.
Is that, you know, if a stimulant is a stimulant, and I hadn't even thought of it, but like if a stimulant is involved, like it typically decreases appetite. So it wouldn't, you know, to me that seems more like
compulsion.
Yeah. Definitely some delusional thinking there, but it could very easily be organic, right? So
well, and the thing is too, with everything being viral now, we can't tell that, you know, he wasn't just doing it for show. On top of, I mean, mental illness could definitely be a factor, but people do fucked up things all the time, and they're completely sober about it. So, you know, it's hard to say unless they continue doing testing and release whatever information they have about this case. But I remember years ago, the Rudy guy from Florida seeing that video and everyone freaking out because they're like, zombies are real. Oh my God. Like, a lot. It's just a lot.
Well, you know, I saw this video on TikTok this week. saw this video on
Morgan,
TikTok.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I did warn you I snort when I laugh. So.
No, I'm not.
My bad.
So, I saw
Go
this
ahead.
video on TikTok this week, and this guy who's worked with a lot of addicts, and he said, a lot of these people are really like some of the greatest people I've met, and it's a shame that they are dealing with drug addiction, is because it's like their life is just going to waste, their personalities are going to waste. It's just like to think of what kind of people and what kind of lives they would have if they weren't beset by that. And of course, it's most of them don't have psychotic mental illnesses. They're just people who made a mistake and or who were abused and turned to substances to cope. There's one. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, a good number of the addicts that I've known actually are former military.
Really? Oh, yeah.
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 I mean, the PTSD, it's real. PTSD is real. And there was one who was Special Forces in the Marines, and he described like the tip of the iceberg of things that he experienced there, including a Humvee. They were in a caravan, right? And there was a Humvee that hit a landmine. And so people that he'd been serving with for over a year, arms, legs, guts, hitting against the windows. I mean, like, this is stuff. He said he was so hyper vigilant while he was there that became his normal. And when he came home, he turned to alcohol. It didn't do it for him. He turned to every street drug possible. And it wasn't until he hit meth that he was like,
oh yeah,
I feel normal again. This is my normal, and we see evidence of that in like anybody who has watched Fear the Walking Dead. There's a character in there, Chris, who has been on dope like for years and battling it, and all of a sudden it's the zombie apocalypse and he's clean, and he's like, you don't understand, this is the world that I've been living in forever. Like, this is how I saw the world. This is why I turned to that stuff. This is reality for me, but it has been forever, So I think that that's something, we have to take into account too, is that like addiction is just a bitch. It has nothing to do with what kind of person you are. It can affect your behavior, sure. You know what I mean? But sober people make bad choices all the time. It's not, it's a difficulty. It's a struggle, They're suffering as much as the people around them who are like, oh my God, this is awful. Like, of course it is. And they don't want to be that way. And nobody is a third grader with, the counselor coming around to their classroom and asking, what do you want to be when you grow up, and answering junkie,
right.
Oh, no. And another experience that has that kind of reverberating trauma too is rape. I saw a video. This woman was 63 years old and a homeless drug addict. And it all had its beginning when she was 14 years old. She was gang raped by 5 boys she went to school with. And she started doing drugs that year and dropped out of school. And ever since, that's been her life. And it's just like, wow, it just, and she hasn't gotten over it. She was crying while she was talking about it. And so, yeah, that's just another one of those experiences. And that's where a lot of addiction comes from.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we'll go to Michelle next. What's your first story?
So lately, my theme, unfortunately, has involved the youth, whether they are the offenders or they are the victims. So my first story, they're actually the offenders. 3 young girls arrested in connection with the murder of a disabled man in Washington, D.C.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 3 young girls have been charged with the murder in the death of a 64-year-old disabled man in Washington, D.C. On Thursday, a 13-year-old girl was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. And on Friday, 2 more girls, ages 12 and 13, were both arrested and charged with second-degree murder, according to the Metropolitan Police Department. 2 judges dismissed a first-degree murder charge in the case, citing a lack of evidence, according to the Washington Post, which was present at the hearings. The 3 girls allegedly assaulted 64-year-old Reggie Brown on October 17th of 2023, MPD said in its statement. When officers responded to the incident, Brown was pronounced dead at the scene, and an autopsy performed by the chief medical examiner showed he had sustained blunt force trauma consistent with a homicide. During a hearing in D.C. Superior Court on Friday, investigators played a video allegedly taken by the girls of the incident. According to the Washington Post, the minute-long clip showed 5 girls chasing Brown into an alley in the northwest neighborhood of the city, pulling him down off a chain-link fence that he was attempting to climb and stomping on his head. They then proceeded to pull down his pants, take his belt off, and hit him with it. One of the girls in the video can be heard cheering, "He's leaking," referring to Brown's head, which was bleeding. One detective called the clip horrific in court, according to NBC Washington. During the 2-day-long court proceedings, homicide detective Harry Singleton testified that Brown was disabled per the Washington Post. He had had mental health issues and had 2 fingers on each hand and a metal plate in his head. Investigators also played security footage of an adult man who looked to be in his early 20s, grabbing Brown by his collar and throwing him against the wall. Singleton also, yes, this is so just beyond fucked. Singleton also testified that the group of girls who had no relation to Brown were passing by and witnessed the incident, NBC reported. According to the Washington Post, the detective interviewed a witness who alleged that one of the girls walked up to the man assaulting Brown and asked, "Can I fight him?" referring to Brown, to which the man responded, "Yes." One of the girls who was interviewed by investigators alleged that the 2 girls in the group of 5 didn't want to fight Brown, but the man threatened to shoot them with a gun he had in the waistband of his pants. The 3 girls, who have not been identified publicly by law enforcement due to their age, have been charged as juveniles and have pleaded not guilty. The 12-year-old involved in the case is now on crutches after being shot on Friday morning before being arrested. According to NBC Washington, law enforcement said she was shot and wounded in her home less than a mile away from the location where Brown was assaulted. She had been hit in the leg and was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, the affiliate station reported. No other details were released about the shooting incident, according to the Washington Post. All 3 girls are being held in the D.C. Youth Services Center and are expected back in court this week. The Washington Post learned during the hearing, quote unquote, "My uncle really didn't deserve this," Brown's niece told NBC Washington in a statement. "He was known in this community for years, so for this to happen where he had lived 64 years is insane. They have to be held accountable."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a 47-year-old disabled man, so this is pretty appalling to me, especially. What's with the kids? What's with the kids these days? I keep hearing about 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds committing murder. I mean, it used to be there were just bullies in the schoolyard. Now they're...
Well, the thing is, the bullies used to murder kids all the time. We just didn't hear about it as much because social media and the internet was still in its infancy stage.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we look back, historically speaking, we have, what's his name? Jesse something. It was in the 1800s, right? He was a kid who was...
Jesse James?
No. It was, I think he was from Massachusetts, I think. But he basically would lure little boys and little girls to like outhouses and things and would just brutally murder them in these places. And it stood out because he was like 13 years old. We don't have that luxury right now. Like, we hear about it all the time. I'm sorry, I'm destroying my own setup here. Talking with my hands. It is what it is. So there are cases, that we don't hear about, and we go, well, why wouldn't I have heard about this, right? But they're so prolific at this point in time that it's hard to keep track. Of course, we're not going to hear all of them. We're only going to hear the most egregious. But even this particular case that you mentioned, Michelle, like, seriously, not on my radar. Well, you would think it would be, right?
Right. And I mean, we got to think again, the viral sensation. I mean, kids post anything and everything on Snapchat and whatever social media platforms they are using, because obviously they have their own little secretive things because they don't want to do what the old people do. So Facebook isn't relevant anymore. Instagram's whatever, but just the fact that it's so blatantly put out there, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously with their age, they're not thinking about long-term consequences.
Right.
They don't know who has access to those stories and those feeds and those reels. And, depending on if they're uploading this stuff on public servers, especially like through schools, the schools
Mm-hmm.
can go through and find everything that's been uploaded using their, servers and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. And
Absolutely.
I mean, bullying was super bad in the 90s and early
Mm-hmm.
2000s. And we had chat rooms. We just got banned from them. I couldn't
Right.
imagine being 12 or 13 and having access to a cell phone with internet connection and being able to talk virtually like we are now to anyone
Right.
in the world. Like, good
Right.
God, I'm so glad that wasn't around.
And this
Oh
keeps
my
bringing to
God.
mind, this brings to mind the debate about trying kids as adults. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're 12 years old and you have such a lack of humanity in you that you could just murder an elderly disabled man, maybe you do deserve to go away for 25 years. I don't know.
Right. And it makes me think, in Canada, right? Jasmine Richardson, 12 years old with a 23, 24-year-old boyfriend. I don't remember exactly how old he was at the time, but annihilated her family. Dad, mom, and brother, I mean, she killed her own 8-year-old brother by slitting his throat. Like,
God.
at what point in time she's out. She's out of prison.
Right.
Like, she's new identity, I'm assuming, and just
Uh,
out walking amongst the world.
yeah,
Like,
that's
Well,
not
and
right.
it's like a whole ethical dilemma. At that
Mhm.
age, we know that their brain's not fully developed, but
Right.
they should have a base sense of right and wrong, and they know what's fucked up and what they shouldn't ever do, but they still do it. And it's like,
Mhm.
how long do, if they are going to grow up and regulate themselves to the point where they can be a functioning adult, when do we stop punishing them for that? When do we start to put trust back into them? And with
Yeah.
the current criminal justice system, it's set up for failure anyway. So it's that one of those, are we going to treat them like a caged animal for the rest of their life because we can't afford to trust them? Or are we going
Mhm.
to go the opposite route and they possibly reoffend?
I mean, and that really is the scary question. I mean, we have what was it, Pauline Parker and what was her name, Juliet Hume, in Australia, and they bludgeoned Pauline's mother to death with a brick and a sock. And the pair of them, went away for a time. But for instance, one of the things that they couldn't do, they could not be in contact, like for the rest of their lives. They were barred from contact. And Juliet Hume actually came out of things, new identity, all of that. She became a crime writer
Mm.
under her pen name. So it's an interesting one. I'll give you the information after, and you can put it in the show notes or whatever. But so we have these people who it would be newsworthy if Jasmine Richardson reoffended. We'd hear about it, right? And so far, nothing. So maybe as a child, she made this decision. I mean, we can look at what were we were just talking about this, Morgan, John Venables and Robert Thompson, right? Like,
Yeah.
these guys who killed Jamie Bulger. So, have we heard more from them? It would be newsworthy. So I guess no news is good news in those cases, but it's a gamble, right?
Yeah. Every day's different. And I mean, even serial killers can go through periods of quiet and dormancy
Yep.
before they suddenly just reoffend. And
Right.
go back
Wait,
on their sprees.
all right. So Ariel, what's your first story?
Okay, so I'm hoping that my order is gonna be okay. So I decided I was going to start with the case of a little girl who was the victim. In Serbia, this is very, very recent. It's an ongoing case. There were two men arrested because a 2-year-old little girl named Danka Ilic who was reported missing. Turns out that they took her body and disposed of her in a dump. They were basically state workers. They were with waterworks, and they hit the child with their van. and
Accidentally?
presumably accidentally, she had wandered out of her front yard. So they struck her with a vehicle rather than calling for services or running to the house, anything. They took the child and they put her in the back of the vehicle where they kept the tools. And when people were coming out and about and looking for this little girl, including the father's dad, he questioned these guys and they said they hadn't seen her. And in fact, one of these guys actually joined the search for the little girl. When it came to light that they were the ones responsible for what happened, it further devolved because the original story, of course, they struck the little girl. It was an accident. They disposed of the body. Bad news bears all around, right? It's not great.
Yeah.
But the story began to change. And these two men, under questioning, actually turned on each other. And they said the child was still alive after she'd been struck. And each was accusing the other of strangling her to death. So, yeah, as if that's not bad enough, the original suspect in the little girl's disappearance was the mother. And the reason for that is because police did a search on her computer and found that she had been Googling what is the maximum amount of prison time you can get for trafficking a child.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So it's
Jesus.
Look, between the three of us and all of you listening, it's kind of wild that the mom is the B plot here. Right?
Mm.
Right.
So that's case number one. They have not yet recovered the body of the little girl.
And so they don't know if the mother knows these guys or not?
It's ongoing too, so they're probably still.
Yeah. I mean, it's not sure. Obviously, I'll keep you guys posted, and as things come to light. But yeah, like this is some rough shit. I especially myself, I want to understand like what makes it. If it were me, right, and I struck a child by accident, I would be calling medical. I would be saying, holy shit, like obviously, like I'll take responsibility for whatever I did, manslaughter, whatever, but to take this little girl, put her in the trunk, thinking she's dead, drive off to a dump, a landfill to dispose of his body, find out she's alive and strangle her to death.
I think they're both responsible, yeah.
It honestly makes me wonder what the police are like in Serbia. Like, is that one of those things where they were going to take their chances, or did they have records of some type? I know they were workers, but people can slip through the cracks.
Sure.
And obviously, if they had something in their past that was really going to come back to bite them in the ass, they're going to want to cover up whatever occurred, if that's how it actually happened.
Absolutely. And I guess if there would be a theme between my three stories of the evening, it is slipping through the cracks. So that's entirely possible.
Reminds me of this case in Nova Scotia. This guy dumped his girlfriend's charred body by a lake, but denied that he killed her. And he put the body there, but he's just like, oh no, I didn't kill her. Oh, you mean it didn't occur to you to like call up the police and get a coroner to come and get the body or anything?
Right. So what? He's claiming she self-immolated, and he was like, "Oh, babe, I can't leave you like this. I'll just put you behind a lake."
Yeah.
Like, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you let the animals get at you, right? The animal predation.
Perfect.
Oh, by the way, have either of you seen a horror movie called A Serbian Film?
I know of it, and I refuse to watch it.
Yes, I have.
You've seen it. I've heard it's really, really, really fucked up.
It's I would describe it as the superlative worst. It's really awful.
So it's like a lot of torture porn.
Child torture porn.
Really? That's in the movie? Wow.
Yes.
It's very much, and it's not based on this or anything, but it's very much like 120 Days of Sodom, right? By the
Yeah.
Marquis de Sade. Like it's bad on that level bad. Like, they call 120 Days of Sodom the filthiest, just most disgusting book ever written.
Yeah, I've heard
I've,
that.
I've read it, and I mean, they're not wrong. It's somebody's probably been like, hold my beer, and written something worse, but like in my experience, it is very, oh yeah, the worst Serbian film is right up there.
I watched a lot of crazy shit back in the day, but that was one of those that when it went on my radar, everyone's like, like this is the line. Like, don't cross this line. Like, and it's fucking traumatized people.
I had no warning. They were just like, you know what? You love horror. You need to watch this.
And I was like, I couldn't. I was like, there's no way. I can't live. No, I don't. Why the fuck would they even fake this? It's so bad, Morgan. Like, I feel like you will never be the same when you watch that kind of shit.
Well, I wanted to check because I've had experiences where I read about a allegedly shocking movie and then saw it and wasn't shocked. Like this Japanese movie's called it's from Japan. It's called Audition. It's a horror movie.
I've seen that.
I heard. Oh my god,
that's nothing. No.
I saw. Yes.
No. That's fucking child's play compared to a Serbian film.
I saw Audition. I'm like, this is it. This is the shocking movie that no one could handle. So and I saw the Human Centipede, which was kind of fucked up, but not
it's
apparently
gross. It's just
gross. It's gross.
Human Centipede is shock. It's shock value. Serbian film, that's shit you talk to your therapist about.
100%. Yes. Yeah. You're right. And I did. So.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going on to my next story here. So more mutilation, and actually you mentioned children. Woman jailed for 7 years for handing over girl 3 years old for female genital mutilation.
Oh God. Okay.
A British woman has been jailed for 7 years in a legal first after she was found guilty of handing over a 3-year-old who was subjected to female genital mutilation. Amina Noor, 40, took the toddler, who cannot be named for legal reasons, to Kenya in 2006, where the procedure was carried out. A court heard the girl, who was not told what would happen to her, cried for the whole night after her clitoris was removed by a woman whose medical qualifications were not known. In other words, she had none, and that's how it is done in Africa. Nora was found guilty of assisting a person to mutilate a girl's genitalia while outside the UK, contrary to the Female Genital Mutilation Act of 2003, following a week-long trial at the Old Bailey in October, sentencing her to 7 years on Friday. Judge Mr. Justice Brian said, I thought that was his birth name at first. Like, wow, what a name. And how it's like being named Jeeves and becoming a chauffeur. Okay. Mr. Justice Brian said it was the first successful prosecution for the truly horrific and abhorrent crime, adding the victim's life has been irrevocably altered by your actions. The judge said he hoped the victim's bravery would encourage others to come forward to report female genital mutilation, which is often perpetrated under a cloak of secrecy. Referring to the victim as Jade to protect her anonymity, he added, "It is to Jade's very great credit that she came forward and had the confidence to speak to a teacher about what had been done to her, and it is to be hoped that her courage in doing so will inspire other women to do the same, so that the perpetrators of such vile practices are prosecuted and such vile practices are deterred." He said that the removal of the clitoris amounted to the destruction of an organ, noting potential complications can include swelling, delayed wound healing, urine retention, and infection, which can lead to sepsis and death, while the long-term impacts are irreversible. Dressed in black at the Old Bailey, Nora wiped away tears as she was led from the dock. In mitigation, Nika Akudulu, KC defending, had urged the court to at least consider an alternative to a substantial custodial sentence, arguing that Nora believed the victim would be subjected to a far less invasive procedure. She told the court Nora, who was born in Somalia but fled to Kenya during the Civil War before relocating to Britain aged 16, was pressured to take the child for the procedure. The court heard that 94% of women of Somali origin living in Kenya undergo female genital mutilation, according to United Nations figures. It's difficult for us to understand and comprehend that pressure. This repugnant practice was embedded in that culture, and she was clearly, plainly influenced at the time in the belief that she was doing what was necessary to be accepted. In an impact statement read to the court, the victim, now 21, insisted she is not angry with Noor. The victim said, "I know that had I been in her position, with the failure of education, with the pressure from people I loved most, I would also have gone through with it." During the trial, prosecutor Deanna Heer KC said Ms. Noor traveled by tuk-tuk to a clinic at a private house in the East African country, where the girl was taken into a room on her own by a woman whose medical qualifications were not known. The girl, who was born in Britain, was not told what would happen to her or was too young to understand. Whilst they were there, she took the girl to the house of the Kenyan woman, where the girl was subjected to female genital mutilation. Afterwards, the toddler cried the whole night, complaining of pain when she went to the toilet, while cotton wool was stuck to the wound after the procedure. The incident was not reported until 2018, when the girl, then aged 16, confided in an English teacher who contacted the authorities. During a medical examination at a London hospital in 2019, doctors confirmed the girl's clitoris had been fully removed. Most of the rest of the articles pretty much the same. So another complication as well, and this is something that makes things even worse for the victim in Somalia, is that, I mentioned the retention of urine. So it can get to a point where it resembles a pregnant stomach, and they will accuse the girl of having fornicated, and they will kill her. They'll kill her for it.
Oh my God. I mean, it's such a pervasive thing, right? Like in certain types of cultures, as this idea of the preservation of women's virtue, right? That they'll go in and do these things. But something that's not well understood is that the clitoris, it's pronounced differently, whatever, pick your poison, whatever. We think of it as like this little tiny nub, right? It's not. It's a whole ass organ. It goes inside the body. It goes 1 to 2 inches into a woman's body. One of the reasons that female genital mutilation is so bad is that you not removing the actual organ. If you surgically had the clitoris removed, you would get rid of all of those nerve endings. But right. When you take away the pleasure receptors, all you're leaving is pain, which means that having a mutilated clitoris, what have you, is going to cause pain in sex for the rest of time for that person. I mean, it's so heinous.
But I once read that actually in some cases they think that the woman could never have sexual pleasure again, but apparently in some cases they can.
Which is wonderful. I'm glad that there's an exception, truly.
But yeah, obviously these people have no real medical training at all, and it's real butchery in some cases. They're just using like pieces of glass they found on the ground, and
Yep.
so, I mean, if it was medically necessary, which is never the case, but if you were going to do that properly, I guess you would use like a scalpel or something. But
yes, and anesthesia, for fuck's sake.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
Like there's just
bare minimum.
It's shocking to me. We're talking girls from age 2 to, however. I mean, there have been full-grown women who've been dragged out there and have had to undergo that for whatever fucked up reasons people come up with. It's brutality. That's all it is.
Yeah,
it's brutality.
Yeah, there was that. I read that book, Infidel. I'm trying to remember the woman's name, but she had it done to her, and the thing is, her parents didn't want it done, but once while they were like traveling or something, her grandmother arranged it. Like
oh my God.
They just like it. They were just like, it has to be done. It has to be done, and so yeah, it was forced upon her anyway. That's how much they. Oh well. Okay, so Michelle's next. What's your second story?
So not only is this week's theme about, youth being involved, it's also about viral, everything being viral. Now, a man allegedly watched and cheered on the murder of his friend on live stream.
Oh.
A Nevada man has been charged with murder and other counts after he allegedly watched his friend kill another friend over a live video stream while cheering on his actions, authorities say, per reports. Police in Las Vegas arrested Stefan Jakubov, and I may have butchered that last name, I apologize, on March 15th in connection with the August death of Aaron Chavez. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department confirms to People. Chavez was found dead near a highway in Baker, California on August 13th. The victim's charred remains were discovered a few feet from a man named Gino Julian, who had called for a tow truck after his car got stuck in the sand. Officials from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department arrested Julian, 30, in Baker that day, and the case was transferred to the LVMPD after authorities determined that the alleged killing took place in their jurisdiction. Following a months-long investigation, Las Vegas authorities issued an arrest warrant for Jakubov in March 6th, online court records show. After his arrest, he allegedly confessed to authorities he had watched Julian punch Chavez several times over a video feed. Okay. Text messages allegedly showed Jakubov egging on Julian to take out the killing. Break his face, read one of the alleged messages to Julian per police. Delete our combos. So Jakubov has been charged with open murder, conspiracy to commit battery, resulting in substantial bodily harm, robbery, concealing evidence per online court records. Julian has been charged with open murder per online records. It's not clear if Jakubov has entered a plea. An attorney listed for him in court records did not immediately respond when People requested for a comment.
So what was it, like on his phone, or how did he record it? Was it like something like this on Skype, or?
They didn't say in the article, but it was streamed somehow. So it could have been Skype, it could have been Twitch, it could have been any number of those, YouTube, any of those streaming platforms. Could have been TikTok, who knows?
Sure.
Isn't it fucked up to think someone could use something like this, like Skype, and there could be like 50 people in little squares watching a murder? I mean, I'm sure that's.
Do you not remember chat roulette, Morgan?
Chat roulette? What, you mean like Russian roulette through chat?
Not quite to that extent. It was more like dick roulette. So chat roulette was this online community where you would log in on your webcam and then you would click the button and get linked with another random user online.
Mm-hmm.
Completely at random. Could be in the United States, could be across the world. Sometimes you would just see a penis on screen. Sometimes you would see an actual person.
Well,
totally random.
You would definitely see a penis, Then again, you would just have to be a woman for that to come up. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, can confirm. Yep.
You guys, I'm sure, have both gotten the unsolicited dick pics, right?
Yes.
I'm working on I'm working on a stand-up routine actually that has to do with that, and how I really wish that men would take pride in craftsmanship when they send those pictures. Please don't make them blurry. Maybe, modeling 101, learn your angles. You know what I'm saying?
So-
Like there's could
So-
be a
Yeah.
better experience. Still wouldn't fuck you.
It
But I'd be
wasn't-
impressed.
It wasn't the dick pic that was like blurry or anything. It was the comments before and after that
Oh,
just
yeah.
I'm like, what? Why?
The only way to get revenge on this is like either to send like another guy's dick or to send like an old lady's vagina. That'd probably be good revenge.
Yeah, I had a friend who doctored up a picture for me. My friend Josh, also podcaster. If he listens, hey, you know who you are. He doctored a picture because he does like graphic design stuff that just has a like total full on vagina dentata that like he just sent to me to send back.
I love that movie. Morgan, have you seen Teeth?
What?
The movie Teeth.
Oh,
Don't
oh my God, that's better than Audition. Morgan. This was the feminist movie of the early 2000s. This is like 2006, 2007.
sure.
I
Like,
bought
did you
that
say
movie
Teeth
the
as
day
in,
it
like,
came out on DVD because Fangoria website had been hyping the shit out of it, and it's one of me and my best friend's favorite movies.
It's
Yeah.
chef's
She
kiss.
found out she lives not far from the cave scene. So she's like, if you come back to Texas,
Seriously? Amazing.
this girl has fucking teeth in
Oh.
there. And so
Okay,
nobody can
Yeah.
mess with her because she just straight, she Venus flytraps them.
Yeah, dude.
And it is
Yep.
so graphic and so,
It's so graphic.
but it's so good. It's so good. It's so wild. And just the fucking, it's true.
That might be difficult.
Oh,
but
God.
What one thing a woman could do is like put like a cork with like a razor blade in it. In the other end, that's
People have done it. Not
I'm
gonna
like-
lie.
Well, they
Uh,
have
I'm
those
sure, yeah.
anti-rape devices that they have in Africa where it almost looks like a plastic condom, but it's got fucking blades on the inside.
Yep.
So that if a
Yep.
guy penetrates her,
You're gonna
he
get
has to
shredded.
get it surgically removed because it's
Yep.
going to be like stuck.
ow.
Yeah.
Did you guys see I Spit on Your Grave?
Mm-mm.
No.
I know of it. My sister watched it.
This girl gets gang raped and then she goes and gets revenge against all the rapists.
Well,
That's what
don't her parents, aren't they the ones that go after or is it her?
No, she goes after them. She kills them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
See,
Because there's another movie similar to that where a girl gets assaulted and then the parents go after the rapists and fucking
that's a
torture
different one,
them.
See, here's my thing, right? I tell people very consistently, I'm anti-violence. Like I don't support the death penalty. Like I have like I really we have enough. Right? Brutality in the world. However, there are crimes. There are crimes where I go, I get it. You know what I mean? Like it
I'm
wasn't
gonna
great.
turn a blind eye to this one.
It wasn't great, but I get it. There was a woman, for instance, several years, it may have even been like a decade ago, a Saudi woman, right, who her daughters, like there was a guy that was into her and she did not reciprocate. So he came to her place of work and he dumped like acid on her.
I
And she
heard about that.
died in the parking lot, like ran, but died in the parking
Oh.
lot of the wounds. So a year later, the mother happens to see this guy because, of course, he does no time for it
Right.
because it's, Saudis. Look, y'all, if you're listeners in Saudi, like we love you. You're on the right side of history. But their issues, I think they know that as well as we do. So this guy got no time. And the mother happened to see him in a bar a year later, like across the street. She went into a convenience store, like gas station, bought a gallon of gasoline, went into that bar, doused him in gasoline and lit him on fire. And you know what? Good on you, bitch. She did her time, went to prison, did her time, and I would too if it was my daughter. So
Right.
just
Well,
saying,
I've seen
fuck
pictures.
around and find out.
I've seen pictures of the acid throwing victims, and it's pretty horrific. It's pretty grim, you know.
Horrible.
It's completely savage. I can't.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
those
yeah, like
poor
skin, like in some cases, like melting, you
Dripping
know.
off. Yeah.
Well, and I've seen TikToks where girls who survive that are like, I'm finally going to get my cosmetic surgery for the reversal like,
Yeah.
can't, like, it breaks
No,
my
no.
heart. And it's like, I'm so happy that it's fucked up.
Right.
I don't want to be happy that it happened, but I'm happy that they've stayed so positive and
Yes.
they're getting something,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know. But
Totally
still.
with you. Yeah.
Okay, so Ariel's turn now. Your second.
Oh, okay. Well, this one's a fun one because nobody dies in it.
Oh, okay.
So we can have a good
That
time
does not
with this
sound
one.
promising.
We can have a good time with this one. So,
Oh God.
Bryan County, Georgia.
Oh God.
2 Georgia men are accused of setting off a bomb, this is tannerite, at a woman's home and plotting to release a python to eat her daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually have a friend who lives in Georgia, and when I told him about this case, he said, "Is this Florida?" And I went, "Nah, babe, it's in your backwoods."
Nope.
Sorry, honey.
But it is
It's
so
in your own
Florida.
backyard.
Jeez.
So, 34-year-old Caleb Kenzie and 37-year-old Stephen Glosser conspired to harass, intimidate, injure, or kill the woman who owned the house. Okay. So, Glosser had met the victim on a dating site.
Tinder? This
It
sounds
does
like a
not
Tinder
specify.
thing.
It does not specify, but let's just, for the
Grindr.
sake of argument, I doubt it was Grindr.
I know that's a gay male dating service,
Yeah.
but Grindr sounds so much more apropos than you.
Clearly,
Morgan's
yes,
just like-
you're not wrong. So their relationship went south. They blocked each other. Whatever, right? That's when Kinsey got involved. Okay, so they plotted. I'm not fucking with you guys. I'm serious. They plotted to shoot arrows into the victim's front door, mail her dog feces and dead rats, scalp her head was one of their plans, blow up the home, and release a large python to eat her daughter. Okay. So they built an explosive device using tannerite, which is a brand of firearm target designed to explode when struck by a bullet. Okay. So they used the device to blow up the woman's house. A witness told investigators they saw a black SUV leaving the scene, which was determined to be Kinsey's car. All right. So police served a search warrant on Kinsey and Glosser's home and their phones. Authorities then found evidence of explosives and Glosser's journal, where he, wrote about all of this. So, stay stupid. The men have been indicted on a slew of charges, including unlawful possession of an explosive, first-degree arson, stalking, use of an explosive to commit another felony offense, conspiracy to use an explosive to commit a felony, possession of an unregistered destructive device. So, basically, the conspiracy charge alone carries a penalty of up to 20 years in prison, and using an explosive to commit a felony carries a penalty of 10 years in prison. Kinsey also faces additional weapons charges. So, although there was no murder, the baby's fine, is not python eaten. The woman, her house was destroyed, but she and the child both lived, right? But this merry band of chuckle fucks is going away for a long time. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean,
their assholes are going to become incendiary explosive devices once they get to prison.
Abso-fucking-tively. Yeah.
There was a case in Canada.
We heard you fucked with pythons on the outside.
Speaking of pythons, there was a case in Canada.
Right? Hold my toilet moonshine.
There was a case in Canada where these people owned 2 pythons, big pythons, which is not legal, and somehow they crawled. They lived in the upstairs of an apartment building, and then it crawled downstairs. It was like a house that was apportioned in apartments, and there was a baby downstairs, and they fucking swallowed the baby. They killed it. So that's, and then underlining why the snakes should not live in domiciles,
No.
Well, you shouldn't own a large snake like that because they can
Adequately
swallow.
feed it.
Well, yeah, there's that too. Yeah. Take care of your
Well, I know
reptiles.
someone who had a snake like that, and she bought these frozen rats.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, by the way, you have to act like it's still alive, though. You
Yeah,
have to like shake
Or
it
wiggle it.
around.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so what's my next story here? So yeah, 3 suspects have been arrested in the killing of a Phoenix man whose friends and family allege was targeted because of his sexual orientation. The
Mm.
body of Bernardo Pantaleone, 30, was found dead in a city park. Court records indicate he had been shot and later mutilated. The suspects were arrested Saturday and are being held on bonds ranging from $500,000 to $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
One of the men is charged with first-degree murder, while the other 2 are facing conspiracy charges. Lawyers for the men did not immediately respond to emails. Police said the suspects sent photos of Pantaleone's body to his family members.
Oh God.
And on November 26, Pantaleone's body was found with significant trauma on a trail near Mountain View Park. His family said he was found naked, beaten, and brutally tortured, so bad that detectives asked loved ones not to see him in that condition. Pantaleone's friends and family have said that they believe he was the victim of a hate crime because he was gay and often wore glamorous clothing. Police investigators said the suspects, all in their early 20s, planned to rob Pantaleone and then kill him. Detectives said they reviewed social media messages between the 3 suspects in which they allegedly discussed and planned Pantaleone's killing. Some made derogatory remarks regarding the victim's sexuality and a derogatory statement about homosexuals not being allowed in Phoenix's North Side. Police said the suspects were interviewed and acknowledged the plan to kill Pantaleone. According to court paperwork, Santiago admitted to police he killed Pantaleone after, quote, an unwanted advance made him uncomfortable. He ultimately shot the victim several times, killing him, leaving him, and returning an hour later with his co-defendant Manuel Carrasco, who then mutilated the victim's body. Pantaleone's family has launched a GoFundMe, which has raised over $5,600 as of Wednesday. KPHO-TV reported that Pantaleone's death shares similarities to a high-profile unsolved murder of another gay man from Phoenix, Benjamin Anderson, who was murdered and tortured in January 2022. While Phoenix police are investigating Pantaleone's murder, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is probing Anderson's murder and is aware of the similarities as both investigations continue. The Anti-Defamation League and GLAAD documented 356 anti-LGBTQ plus nationwide incidents motivated by hate between June 2022 and April 2023, according to a study released in June. So, now I don't want to piss anybody off here, but doesn't Arizona have a reputation now for being kind of a hotbed of bigotry? Hasn't it acquired that reputation during the last few years?
Right. So as not to get super political, I think, yes, that reputation has been garnered, deservedly or not, right? Let's put it that way.
I'm sure most people there are not like that, but I know I've heard a lot of things in the media where they were just saying, like, politically it's gone that direction.
Right. I've heard very similar things. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know. We won't pursue the political end of that, but anyway, it is hard. It is hard to believe that, yeah, those crimes are still happening like this late in history. I mean, you think like Matthew Shepard happened, I think, in '94, and there were things like that in the '80s. but you'd think
Right.
for this to happen in 2022 or 2023,
No,
you
it's
know.
appalling. It's
It's yeah.
appalling. I mean, we still, if we go by sheer percentages, right, of different demographic groups, like Black trans women are the most targeted and murdered um, individuals, like as far as like a specific group in on the planet. So, and that's not just here in the United States or in North America, or I mean, this is worldwide. Like it is a phenomenon. And you look at that and you think, what is it really that compels somebody to perpetrate that kind of violence against somebody because of something like sexual orientation or gender expression or what have you, like
Right.
color of your skin? What is it about that?
Well, I mean,
And
I guess we think because like, there's more representation in like movies and TV or whatever that it's gotten better. But of like in Russia, not only has that not improved there, but they've now designated that community as like a domestic terrorist threat or something. And in Africa, like if a girl is found to be a lesbian, a bunch of guys will rape her and they think like that's going to fix it. And so it's all over the place.
corrective rape.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess there's a long way to go when it comes to this, even in the United States.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I did my third, and Michelle's up now. Your third.
Okay, just buckle in. This one's not fun. Dad who bit newborn daughter at least 6 times and claimed she was ungrateful is sentenced.
Oh wow! Oh my God, this is fucked.
And this is to my neighbors.
I feel like I just and just for the listeners, I literally had a stroke last Thursday. That's not a joke. Like I dropped in my classroom and had a stroke. I sort of feel like I had another one just now listening to that.
Really? A second. Oh my God.
Yeah. Like I was like, oh fuck, what?
Yeah. No.
Okay. All right. I'm listening. Go ahead.
This is real. It's absolutely disgusting. An Indiana father will serve jail time after he reportedly bit his newborn daughter, leaving teeth marks on her body, and then claimed he did so because she was quote-unquote ungrateful. Gavin Rogers, 26, pled guilty to domestic battery resulting in bodily injury to a person less than 14 years of age in court on March 28th, according to documents obtained by People. As a result of the plea agreement, Rogers was sentenced to 3 years behind bars, with 1 year executed and 2 years on supervised probation. In November of 2022, Rogers and a woman took a 2-week-old baby to an Indianapolis hospital, according to a police probable cause affidavit obtained by the Washington Times-Herald. The hospital alerted the Indiana Department of Child Services to quote-unquote mouth-shaped bruises and teeth marks on the newborn's shoulder, forearms, stomach, knee, and leg, per the Washington Times-Herald. When questioned about the bruises, Rogers reportedly told hospital workers that he may have open-mouth kissed the newborn too hard.
I have so many questions. Number one, how very dare you, sir?
Right.
Oh my God.
However, after inspecting the photos of the bites, Whitestown Police Detective Joseph Turney said in the affidavit that the injuries could have only been inflicted while using excessive force, which would have caused severe pain to the victim.
Oh, God.
Nursing staff at the hospital told police that they were hesitant to send the baby home with Rogers after he was overheard calling the baby ungrateful, evil, and a little bitch, per the affidavit obtained by the outlet. They also noted that Rogers seemed to get frustrated when the baby would start to cry, per WXIN. One nurse said in a report, per the outlets, that she was not comfortable sending this baby home to the care of the father of the baby. During an interview with police, Rogers said he intended to give the baby quote-unquote love bites, but nibbled too hard on the child when she was fully clothed. People reached out to the Whitestown Metropolitan Police Department for comment. Rogers was arrested on March 14th of 2023 on charges of neglect of a dependent and battery, the outlet reported. Rogers received credit for the 3 months he served in Boone County Jail and 9 months at the Boone County Community Corrections, according to court documents.
First of all, love bites are for significant others and Def Leppard albums. And
Jesus.
Yep. Cosign.
I happen to be reading a novel right now which features as part of its plot a woman who eats dead babies. I'd mention that as well.
That fucking book. I bought that book.
Oh, you know about it.
Yes, I've read it. It's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's extreme
It's
horror.
an Ohio author. Did you not pick
Really?
up on all this shit reference?
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I gotta tell the person who gave that to me for my birthday about that. Yeah.
Wow.
How far into the book are you? Because it gets worse than just eating of the babies.
Well, I haven't gotten any further than that. I mean, the guy.
Oh, good. You're gonna hate it. Ariel, don't read this book. This is like a Serbian film of horror graphic. No.
I'm solid. I'm good. Thanks.
Protagonist is the necrophile. I mean, the dead babies thing almost makes him look normal, like in comparison. He had sex with adult women who are dead. She likes babies who are dead. But yeah, wow. And considering his baby daughter ungrateful for not liking to get bitten.
Or just crying. How dare she cry for basic needs because she's newborn?
What
and
is
cannot
wrong
communicate?
With this guy? Like, seriously, and that, like, why? Okay, I'm sorry. Why even come up with that explanation? Really? No answer is better than that.
I'm shocked that the fucking nurses. It sounds like they did let him go back home with the baby because the bite marks had to have healed over time. So this was an ongoing thing.
It's hard. God.
Like this guy has to be like schizophrenic or something. Like that's just psychosis.
I don't know. It's sick. It's sick regardless.
Whatever it is, it's sick.
There's plenty of people with mental illnesses who don't bite newborns.
Like
people with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. So, like, in thinking about this particular guy, I'm just like, I don't know, like, something's not right.
Right.
Something's not computing. But, like, typically, if somebody is not suffering mental illness and they perpetrate violence, it's not going to be that niche, right? We're not talking about biting, like, that's real strange. They're going to just hit or beat or.
The only thing I can think of is it's an anger thing, and he, from what it sounded like, he couldn't handle the baby crying. So maybe that triggered his anger or whatever, and he lashed out. But still, it's not excusable.
Like, that's so weird.
It's.
Well, I mean, I've covered stories about mothers going through postpartum psychosis and killing their babies, but they didn't do it like that. Like they didn't even go that far. Usually they just threw it off a balcony or something.
Right, and that's the thing is like.
I shouldn't say just, but.
More kids. You need to word this better. Jesus.
Yeah, I think Michelle, we did the one about the.
He's making my hair gray, Ariel. I can't. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so I think so we're down to the last story, which is Ariel's third story, and this is quite a story because
it is.
Unlike our stories, this one happens to involve her to a degree. So this is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah. So, okay. 20-year-old Kahari Allen Ferguson stabbed, and this is confirmed, he did the stabbing, okay? So I'm not making allegations about the whys or anything like that. This is confirmed. Stabbed Sean Neil Malik Brown, 21, in Hanlon Park last May. 2 p.m. His body was found at 2:19 p.m. This is a Saturday afternoon in Hanlon Park in Baltimore, Maryland. Okay. So, pretty brazen to start off with. Kahari had conspired with an accomplice, and he went to this park and he stabbed this 21-year-old man, Sean, to death 23 times in the face and stomach. Okay, so already this is a really grisly murder, a very brazen murder. But the most interesting part of it to me is that Kahari ran, like you do, I guess, if you don't want to get caught for murder. But where he ran is interesting. He decided to enlist in the Future Soldiers Preparatory Course for the U.S. Army. Okay, stay stupid. So he decides to go into the Army. And that, my friends, is where I'm an instructor. He was my student. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he was in my class for 3 days. I was no more than a foot away from him, helping him on paperwork and things. He was a great student. He's bright. He paid attention. He's very respectful, asked good questions, did what he's supposed to do. 3 days into the cycle, one of the drill sergeants came in and said, Trainee Ferguson, grab your shit, we're going. It happens every once in a while in this program. People fuck up. Maybe you were having sex with another trainee in the fucking laundry room, you know what I mean? Or like, we've had some people who've had gang affiliation, you know, because unfortunately, there are gangs who will have people join programs in the military or enlist in the military in order to learn combat or, you know, other like stealth tactics, etc., to take back to, you know, where they're from. So gang activities taken very seriously. We had one a few cycles back, one of mine, who took a metal pipe and beat another trainee in the bay where they slept, to the point that other trainees dragged him off of him. Obviously, he was chaptered out. He's gone. It's not, you know, but so I just assumed, okay, whatever. He could even just be in possession of fucking marijuana. You'd get kicked out. It is what it is. So I don't usually ask questions. I'm like, it's stupid trainee bullshit. So the next day, or I'm sorry, later that day, the drill sergeant came back to me and said, Ferguson will not be returning. And I said, okay, didn't ask any questions. Next morning, the platoon guard, which is somebody who's one of the trainees, they're just elected to be the person who's kind of like in charge of like making sure everybody's on the same page, right? So the platoon guard comes to me, 17-year-old kid, last name Felice. He's a sweetheart. He's a real sweetheart. Anyway, he tells me, Ms. Cooksey, you know that Trainee Ferguson was, he left? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, yeah, you know he's not coming back, right? And I said, yes, I do. And he goes, do you know why? And I said, no, I don't. And he just goes, yeah, there's a warrant out for his arrest. And I was like, interesting, okay. And he said, yeah, for murder. And I just went, record scratch, just,
yeah.
Like, what, just, excuse me?
Right.
So, of course, in the entire time that this program has existed, we have over 80 instructors. We have had thousands and thousands of people just at Fort Jackson, where I work, and there's another base that they do it as well. So, in all of that time, there's never been a murderer. The one was in my class. Yeah.
So did he know the victim? Was it because it sounds like a crime of passion, like this was a personal thing.
This had to have been personal. Now, I am actually going to be covering it on Malice. I typically don't do current cases, you know. Right. I mean, I'll occasionally have on people that I'm interviewing who are, you know, dealing with like trying to get justice for a loved one or things like that. But the cases I cover, they're adjudicated cases unless the killer's like dead. Right? Like there's, you know, I'm trying to get like a psychological autopsy of the people that I cover. So it's easier to do if you know who that person is and what happens, right? In this particular case, though, I was like, how do I not cover this? I had a murderer sitting in my classroom. I breathed the same air as him. Right. And the freakiest thing about it, even the drills looking back were like, these kids are out of the norm, right? Like they're trainees. All of a sudden, they're on military time. They have no access to technology. They are, having to do physical training. They're having to do, all like it's jarring. It's jarring. This kid, they said, was like cool as a cucumber, not even remotely rattled. And when I think about that now, how chilling it is that
Mm-hmm.
he had stabbed somebody to death in the face and stomach 23 times. Totally, totally calm, cool, and collected. I think we're talking about a full-blown psychopath.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just goes to show, very few of these people actually come across as malevolent. They rarely do. The only serial
No.
killer I know of who looked like he could be a serial killer is BTK. He looks
I'd give Otis Tool.
he looks absolutely diabolical.
Yeah, no.
Otis Toole
Yes.
is incredibly stupid. I mean,
But he looked like the kind of guy you'd be like, I'm crossing the street. I'm not walking
Yeah.
near that guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Henry
Yeah.
Lee Lucas too. Although, I don't know, Henry Lee Lucas just kind of looks like a yokel. You know
same
what I
thing.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's funny. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing how society works too. Like you're not allowed to murder at home, but the army will teach you how to murder, and then they'll send you overseas to go and kill people. Just
Yep.
don't do it at home. It's just weird.
Not at home, not to your own. That's the logic. And
See,
what's
that's yeah.
lovely is that I'm not actually U.S. Army myself. I'm a contractor, so I can say this shit.
Yeah, that's right. The
So,
military is very secretive about all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
certainly. But this particular kid, he was, like I said, he was in my class, so he was in 2nd platoon at the battalion that we were at, and the drill sergeants who are ours for 2nd platoon, they actually like have his gear that they like auctioned.
Wow.
We have a picture, and Morgan, I'll send it to you actually. Have a picture in the trophy case in the like cadre quarters downstairs in the company. Of it just has his CAC, which is his community access card. It's in order to get on base, like you have to have one of these, right? It's your military identification. They fucking framed it and put it in there. This is just a little piece of trivia for you. But all of the different companies in a battalion have their own little nicknames, right? I'm Echo Company. We're the Echo Executioners.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well,
we actually have one now, commemorated in the trophy case.
Well, I'll tell you why someone like yourself is working in that position instead of just taking one of their own and putting them there. Because the median IQ of military recruits has been going down since 1969. They just get, because now it's mostly just an option for like working class and poor people, and
it's become a job fair.
Oh yeah,
It
exactly.
is. It's just they don't realize that I mean, it's really sad, actually, that like the number of trainees that I get who are basically the program that I teach is for people who want to enlist but didn't pass their entrance exams.
Oh,
so
really?
We're getting them up to speed to be able to do so. That's the whole purpose for our program. And you're absolutely right though. Like, yeah, there's been a decreasing participation. First of all, like they're so needing of bodies to be in that position, and they need those bodies to be at least minimally capable to do what they need to do. And so the Future Soldiers Preparatory Course exists for 2 different prongs. One is the academic side of things, which is the part that I do. The other is the physical fitness side of things, because some of these recruits, smart kids, you know what I mean, but poor physical health. So we're talking about like you have to have what is it called, tape, like you have to have a certain like BMI or what have you, like in order to qualify for service. And one of the things people don't realize, it makes sense when you think about it, but one of the things people don't realize is that the military, in our country, I would think it's the same everywhere, but I can't speak to that. The military in our country is basically the only occupation that you can have where they can discriminate against you for physical or mental defect. Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah. So what does the exam cover? What are you writing an exam about?
So the exam, it covers multiple different things, but the core, right, is arithmetic, reasoning, math knowledge, word knowledge, and paragraph comprehension. And so that's what we teach. Now, there are additional topics they cover, like mechanical reasoning and things like that. But if you don't score well on mechanical reasoning, it's not going to keep you from getting into the Army, right? That's to see, do they have an aptitude for this? So that's kind of the way the score breaks down.
Now the math would wipe me out. Well, I mean, how complicated is the math? Is it like algebra or is it?
We get up through, well, it's changed recently, but it used to go up through 10th grade algebra and geometry, right?
Oh.
They've recently changed it, so now we're taking it all the way up pretty much through senior level algebra and geometry. So we start with whole numbers, and we make it to algebra and geometry in an 11-day cycle.
Well, yeah,
we're hitting it hard. So.
Yeah.
Well, I know they want more scientists. They want more STEM oriented workers, because it's not that the lower ranking people aren't valuable, but yeah, they certainly want people,
And I mean, we have individuals who are extremely bright. I mean, like the group that I have right now, because people seem to think, oh, they didn't pass their entrance exams, and it's like, well, pause. Why? And the why is very important. Some of these people, I have one right now. He's a 23-year-old kid. He's going to be coming on my show actually when he gets done with BCT. He's a former sheriff.
Really?
Yeah, and smart as a whip. Like, the guy's great. He even passed his test originally, but he signed up for this because he wanted a different assignment. And so he has to have a certain line score to get to that assignment. So he's coming through the course to try to up. He was homeschooled, and he said he was never taught multiplication or division. So he came into our course never having multiplied or divided anything.
Wow.
He will test on Tuesday to see how he's doing. And I will be honest with you, I would be blown the fuck away if he doesn't just absolutely kill it.
Well, was he a sheriff in like a small town or in the country or something like that? Or
Bryan County, Georgia.
Yeah, you see, like, because last week my case was about something that happened in Ohio, and this law enforcement official, he was so underqualified that he didn't understand that, when murders happen, you have to leave the scene alone. But he had these trailers taken away, and then people were murdered inside of them. Blood
completely contaminated the crime scene.
He did. He totally screwed it up, and he was.
Where in Ohio was this?
I actually forget. I have this highway hypnosis with all these cases. It just
they all bleed together.
But yeah, it was way out in the country. It was interesting because a lot of these families had farms. One had a horse farm that was very valuable, but they also grew drugs like pot. And that was part of the scene as well. So
he took the pot too?
I don't know if they took the pot. They were
going to take this.
We're growing $400,000 worth of pot in this one.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Oy.
I don't think it was near you, though. I don't think it was near you. But, yeah, a lot of interesting things are going on in rural Ohio.
Sounds like it.
Lots of drug activity.
Oh, God. Yeah. Ohio is horrible with the drug activity. Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I don't like talking about it. It's too close to home.
Too close to home. I get it.
Literally in my town. It's horrible.
For sure. Oh, God.
We
Yeah,
made
you
like
never-
national news years ago because there was like a massive strain of multiple overdoses in one weekend.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Like
Not-
people fucking ODing in their front lawn during the day
Yikes.
type shit. It was,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
All
That's just
hillbilly
one instance.
heroin or like.
I can't remember what that was that time.
It's just
It's
screaming
always
something horrible.
It's always something, and
A
now
scream of something
xylazine
horrible.
coming on the
Oh,
scene.
great, xylazine! I have to remember that. Yeah, I hadn't even heard of it. I was like, wait, what? There's another. Yeah, I'm just getting up to speed. Like I read like voraciously. Like I'm just now getting up to speed on fucking fentanyl. Like,
no, fentanyl's old news.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently, I'm just like,
It's
holy
so
fuck, where have I
horrible.
been? I don't know anything about this shit. Like, yeah, I don't
The
know.
more you find out, it's just hurts your soul.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I think
Yeah.
On that inspiring and uplifting note.
right at an hour and a half, so I think that's good. I think we had a great episode.
Yeah.
Contributed so much, Ariel. Thank you very much. You were great. And if you would like to, we would love to have you back.
I would love to go anytime. Anytime. This is a blast. I just absolutely adore you guys. This is awesome.
All right, great. So everybody, yes, listen to Malice True Crime Podcast with Ariel Cooksey. You'll enjoy it.
Thank you
Great,
so
guys.
much.
Thanks for joining us. Take care.
All right.
Good night.